Welcome to This Explainer. The next time you happen to look up at the sky, I want you to just pause and consider this. In less than 2 decades, the aircraft battling for supremacy up there are going to look entirely different than literally anything we see today. We are standing on the precipice of a brand new era in military aviation. Superpowers are racing to build jets so advanced they honestly sound like pure science fiction. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. We're talking about absolute geopolitical dominance in the year 2040. So, we really have to ask this monumental question right up front. Who is actually going to dominate the skies of 2040? Right now, as we speak, there is a rapid, highly classified, and incredibly intense technological battle happening between the United States and China. And this isn't just about building, faster jets. It's about fundamentally redefining how aerial warfare is even fought. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break this incredibly complex race down into 5 distinct chapters. The new arms race, America's F-47 NGAD, China's J-36 Challenger, the drone wingman revolution, and finally, the cost of dominance.
Starting off with Chapter 1, the new arms race, and how we are closing the generational gap in the sky.
For decades now, jets like the American F-22 and the Chinese J-20 have been the absolute gold standard, right? But both superpowers are aggressively moving on. General Kenneth Wilsbach, the head of U.S. Air Combat Command, recently put it this way. 6th-gen aircraft are for air supremacy. I don't believe nothing is an option. That quote perfectly captures the absolute, undeniable urgency pulsating through military planning departments right now. They know for a fact they simply cannot afford to sit still. And tracking the development timeline brilliantly illustrates exactly why that urgency exists. Just look at how rapidly the gap is closing. Back in 2011, China flew its 5th-generation J-20. Then the U.S. began flying classified 6th-gen experimental X planes by 2019. But skip forward to late 2024, and China is already flying its J-36 prototype. That rapid progress pushed the U.S. to award the contract for their F-47 in early 2025. The timelines here aren't just fast, they are accelerating in real time.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, America's F-47 NGAD, the long-awaited successor to the F-22 Raptor.
Let's actually lift the veil a bit on what the U.S. is developing. Here are the known specifications we have so far, and honestly, they are staggering. In March 2025, Boeing officially secured the multi-billion-dollar contract for the F-47. This jet is expected to fly at speeds exceeding Mach 2 with all-aspect broadband stealth. Analysts often call this a bomber-like profile, meaning it prioritizes completely avoiding enemy radar from every single angle rather than focusing on traditional dogfighting agility. But what actually makes all of this possible are the next-generation adaptive cycle engines. These massive engines don't just provide incredible thrust, they provide the absolutely essential cooling required for the massive heat-generating AI computers and sensor arrays packed inside the jet. But you really have to notice that combat radius. Over 1,000 nautical miles. That is nearly double the range of the F-22. So why is this so absolutely crucial? Well, because the Pacific Ocean is huge. This extended range allows the F-47 to project power deep into highly contested areas around Taiwan or the South China Sea from distant bases in Guam or Japan. And crucially, it can do all of this without relying heavily on large, slow, and highly vulnerable tanker planes for mid-air refueling.
Moving on to Chapter 3, China's J-36 Challenger, the heavy tactical pathfinder.
Now, pivoting over to China's rapid advancements. The J-36, which first flew in late 2024, is visibly longer and broader than their current J-20. Its tailless design and generous internal weapons bays heavily point to it being a heavy tactical platform. It is built to carry heavy payloads and fly deep into contested airspace. But most remarkably, by October 2025, it was already filmed flying in paired testing alongside a twin-seat J-20S, which was acting as a command plane. Because of this, defense analysts expect the J-36 to be fully operational before the end of the decade. Now, what's really interesting is when you evaluate these two highly secretive programs side by side, it reveals something fascinating. Both nations are tackling a very similar problem, but with slightly different approaches. The U.S. is intensely focused on building a pure air superiority node that commands unmanned drones. China, on the other hand, is currently testing the J-36 as a pathfinder that works in tandem with both existing manned 5th-gen fighters and unmanned swarms. And these differences aren't just engineering accidents. They are born directly out of geographic strategy.
The United States simply requires extreme range to project power across the vast Pacific from allied bases. Meanwhile, China's strategic need is entirely different. They need to penetrate dense, highly integrated Western air defense networks to drop decoys and complicate enemy kill chains. It's a perfect example of form following function. Which leads us directly into Chapter 4, the Drone Wingman Revolution, a complete paradigm shift to systems of systems. Because here is the big open secret about sixth-generation warfare. It's not actually about a single jet anymore. It's all about the network. Both superpowers are banking heavily on collaborative combat aircraft, or CCAs. These are unmanned, AI-equipped drones designed to fly alongside and actively support crewed fighters. These are what the military calls loyal wingmen. They act as incredible force multipliers that dramatically extend a human pilot's reach, survivability, and lethality. And the major global players are already actively testing these platforms. The US has the General Atomics YFQ-42A and the Anduril Fury. China is prepping the Feihong FH-97A to fly right alongside its stealth jets. And the UK has already delivered the Storm Shroud Mk1 specifically to blind enemy radars. The real brilliance of these platforms? They are highly cost-effective. If a CCA gets shot down in combat, the cost is measured in dollars, not in the tragic, irreplaceable loss of human lives. Let's step through how this actually builds a completely new kind of aerial engagement. Think of it kind of like a football game. In Step 1, the human sitting in the 6th-gen fighter hangs back like a stealthy quarterback, mapping the entire field with massive sensors. Then, in Step 2, the AI-driven CCAs push forward like offensive linemen, right into the danger zone to absorb enemy fire, drop decoys, and jam radars. Finally, in Step 3, the human pilot calls the play and executes the complex kill chain from a very safe distance. Which brings us to this incredibly profound analysis from our source material. The future of military aviation may see aviators evolving to be intrinsic components of hybrid systems. The reality here is that artificial intelligence is iteratively neutralizing the traditional human advantages inside the cockpit. The fighter pilot of 2040? They aren't going to be in a dogfight pulling 9Gs. They are going to be an aerial mission commander managing a highly complex swarm of autonomous robots. It is a staggering shift in military history. Finally, we reach Chapter 5, the cost of dominance, or as some experts call it, the math death spiral. Okay, all of this incredible technology sounds completely invincible, right? Well, let's confront a very sobering reality for a second. $300 million. That is the estimated cost of just one single F-47 fighter. It is astronomically, unbelievably expensive. So the crucial point we really have to grasp is how this insane price tag naturally limits military capability. At literally 3 times the cost of a current F-35, the U.S. Air Force only plans to buy roughly 185 F-47s. And honestly, we've seen this exact movie play out before. The F-22 was originally supposed to be a massive fleet of 750 jets, but budget cuts capped it at just 187. The B-2 bomber cut from 132 down to just 21. When things get this expensive, fleet sizes shrink dangerously fast. Both the US and China are currently having to weigh these incredible technological leaps, delivering unmatched speed, stealth, and AI integration for total air dominance against some very brutal budget realities. Defense analysts literally call it the math death spiral. High unit costs lead to smaller fleet orders, which in turn drives the per unit cost up even further. Ultimately, you create a fleet so small and so expensive that you are terrified to actually risk it in real combat. Which leaves us with this final pivotal question to chew on. Will the astronomical cost of these 6th-generation fighters make them the ultimate, unbeatable weapon, or will they become a budget-breaking vulnerability? As both China and the US push the very boundaries of aerospace physics and artificial intelligence to dominate the year 2040, the ultimate winner might just be whoever can figure out how to actually pay for it all. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you unpack the fascinating, high-stakes geopolitical chess match happening right above our heads.